Common Sense America with Eden Cornell. Yeah.
And good morning. This is Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill. I am so glad to be back here with each and every one of you. It is Thursday, February the 2nd. Happy February to each and every one of you. It is a rainy day here in Eastern North Carolina as I look out my office window. But I tell you what, I got to see the fruitful plains of our great country over the past couple days as I traveled up to Pennsylvania, as I traveled to our nation's capital, and as I traveled to beautiful Virginia and on my way back here to North Carolina. I tell you what, it was a pleasure. It was such a joy just to be on the road, to be able to talk with people, to be able to connect with dear friends, to be able to connect with my family, and also just to be able to talk about what is facing our nation, what our nation is facing. And you know what? Yesterday, I had a great conversation as I was driving back to Eastern North Carolina with someone you will get to meet this morning in just a few minutes. She'll be hopping over just in about 5 minutes to join Common Sense America, and that is Kelly McKinley. She is a digital marketing guru, a communications strategist. She also works with the Tennessee Young Republicans, and also she works with United Women Federation of Tennessee. This woman has such a powerful story as she brings such great truth and what she's doing for our next generation. So I'm excited to have you meet Kelly. We talked for just about an hour yesterday as I was driving through Southern Virginia on my way back here to Eastern North Carolina. You know, I met with so many amazing friends, so many amazing people as I was traveling and also as I was exploring. I was going to post a video yesterday when I was driving, and I decided to hold off. It was me driving across one of the bridges into North Carolina. And I was sitting there just thinking and driving and thinking, and I think a lot. I'm constantly wanting to critical think, which I think is being removed a lot from our education system. Whether you are a high school graduate, whether you are in trade school, whether you have your master's degree, I think critical thinking has been removed and off the table. I see a lot of people removing the common sense aspect from their conversations and also the critical thinking. And somebody had mentioned to me a while ago when I was still running for state office, I need to get new glasses because evidently, I guess I was pushing them up a lot. Well, you're right. I do need to get new glasses. And I thank you for mentioning it. You weren't the nicest about it, but thanks for mentioning it. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that we always need to work on, and each and every one of us. And, you know, this weekend, I'm going to be going to one of the bigger cities around North Carolina to get my eyes done, to get a new prescription as I'm putting up my glasses again, because I need new frames. And, you know, there is so many different ways that we can look at our vision as God gives us visions, as we're convicted in our footsteps, as we are, you know, moving along in life, just kind of trotting along. And there's so many different avenues I could go down with this, what God has just been leading me to talk to you about this morning. And that is, you know, the vision for what is ahead for us as individuals, us as parents, as caregivers, as spouses, as public servants, as those who are leading our nation. And I was looking at all the fun frames. I could get a Jackie O pair of sunglasses from 1977 on Warby Parker. I can get another set of these with a new prescription so I can see even better at Warby Parker. I can get a set of aviator sunglasses to look like, you know, Tom Cruise and Top Gun, you know, from, you know, Maverick or from the 80s when the first movie came out. I can do all of those things to make me look good on the outside. But what is my vision really telling me on the inside? What am I seeing in front of me? And what is actually truth? What is reality? And what is just a cover up as you go about your day? And I love talking with neighbors. I love talking with friends. I love talking with my family. I love talking with my husband. He was just talking to me a few minutes ago, and he gets me going every morning from a different perspective, whether it's defense, whether it's military, whether it's veterans, whether it is drag queens on Broadway, believing in Wicca and the devil, and giving all the credit to their stardom because of the devil. We just literally talked about that, people. It was on the national news. I think he said it was on CBS this morning, but I just found an article on NBC this morning talking about how being drag queens makes you a better parent. And there's so many different aspects I could go down on this conversation, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is sincerely just talk to you about vision. We all need to have clear vision, and if that is to be able to drive, to be able to read, to be able to work properly, that we also need clear vision to be able to prepare for what's ahead in our future. Do we have a vision board? Do we seek truth? Or do we just go about our day, making sure we have enough money to make ends meet? Or do we also set visions ahead for ourselves where we're going to challenge ourselves to be even more educated, or to engage more, or to mentor, or to teach, or to help somebody? But what is your vision? And I wanted to ask you that this morning, because I'm sitting here, and though I need a new prescription for my lenses, so I can actually see to drive, and I can see distance, because I know I've made a couple mistakes on this show looking at my phone, and I'm like, oh, wait a second, I need to hold it over here so I can actually see it. And I know I love fashion, so I'm going to get new frames, and that's a given. But what does our vision do for us? Are we renewing our minds daily? Are we believing in a faith that's going to guide us, protect us, provide for us? Is our vision giving us a hope in a future, or is our vision keeping us kind of stagnant? Many of you know, and I don't care what you people think if I say my age, I'm 45. I may not look it, but I am 45. And I may not sound it on the phone, but I'm 45. And I'm proud to be 45. So my sight is going to go down a little bit, but I'm going to tell you something. I had somebody ask me out of the great state of Florida from a conservative faith organization. They said to me, what do you see for the rest of your life as your life is ending at your age? Pin drop, I about fell out of my chair. And I said to them, and the people that were asking me were women. One was a little bit older, probably my mom's age, had a phenomenal career of service. Another was roughly my age. And she took one look at me and she asked me, and it may have been a part of the process that we were going through. We were kind of interviewing one another. But I said to her, I was like, my life has just started. It's just begun. I have so much to do, especially as a child of God. I have so much to do in a very short period of time, because our lives in the blink of an eye, that is scriptural. And you and I both know how fast life goes by. But at 45, God has given me, and I've been praying for a new vision, restoration, renewal, excitement, conviction. And at 45, life is just beginning. So you can either get on that wagon and say, okay, let's run with perseverance. Let's walk with perseverance, because we are. Or you can go hide your head in the sand and watch the time pass by. And I don't think that's the way God had intended us to live. As a caregiver, and a part of the caregiver program, which is the REACH program, which I've talked to you about, as a servant wanting to serve my parents, wanting to serve my dear friends who may be in retirement. Dr. Stanley always says, whether you're 8 or 80, you have a lot of life to give. Whether it is from your home, whether it is sending encouraging emails, whether it is inspiring the next generation, whether it is mentoring. I still have my mentor. She's like another mother to me. And I've had her since I was 18, and I am so grateful I still have her to this day. She may be retired, but she definitely doesn't put her head in the sand. She fights for patriotism. She fights for this nation. She fights for the next generation. So, what is your vision? Have you got it checked out? Have you literally gotten your vision checked out? Have you spiritually checked out your vision? What's your vision board look like? What do you turn to every day for your vision? What inspires you? What convicts you? So, as we bring over a brand new guest to Common Sense America, we're going to talk with Kelly McKinley. I did a quick introduction about her at the very beginning. She's going to share with us what inspires her, what continues to inspire her, as she is our next generation, as she is a phenomenal communicator, and how the love for God and the love for this country just oozes from her as she speaks. Without further ado, I'm bringing over Kelly McKinley. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. It's so wonderful to see you. Welcome to Common Sense America.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to join in.
Oh, my pleasure. So I shared with the audience a little bit before you hopped on how we had an amazing conversation yesterday. And just hearing your heart, hearing your story, hearing what you are doing, I would love if you could share a little bit with the audience, first and foremost, where you're from and a little bit about your background of faith. And then we'll go into where you're doing now.
Awesome. Well, I'm originally born and raised in Valdosta, Georgia. If you don't know where that is, that's literally South Georgia, 20 minutes north of the Georgia-Florida line. And I am so thankful to have wonderful parents that wanted to raise us in a Christian home. You hear it from a church standpoint. Every time the doors were open, we were there. And that is absolutely true. But faith was a part of my journey growing up. It was something I got to see firsthand from a young age, with my mother being diagnosed with cancer when I was in first grade. And just seeing trial after trial and surgery, and just how God just worked and moved right in front of our eyes. And I just remember, as even a young girl, realizing but God's going to take care of it. And I didn't understand exactly why I was believing that at such a young age, because I was literally seeing it. Every time, a bill needed to be paid, or if there was something about school or homework or something like that, it was absolutely insane. And how people would just come before us, and God would place these people and would help us throughout this whole journey. And I will never forget the moments of just prayers and seeing men and women just pray over our family, pray over my mother for healing. And even though the Lord didn't grant healing on this earth, He did grant it for her to have it in heaven. And I know that's where she's at right now. And I am so thankful that she is surrounded with a host of angels, because I know without a shadow of a doubt that she is in the presence of the Lord. And I think for many people, I think it's difficult when you just discuss grief, just discuss pain, and just hurt, because it tears families apart. And that happened with our family. For years growing up, I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like, okay, what's wrong with me? What's going on? I felt like I had to overperform. I had to be perfect and still make all the, great grades, and do all the activities, play basketball and cheer, and just all the different fine arts opportunities. But it was one of those things that I was so insecure about, and I let that consume me for years. And at some point after I went off to college, I remember just be like, no, this is who I am, and this is who God's called me to be. I've seen God work. I've seen God move. And that is why I'm going to live for Him, and just no shame in that. And I'm so thankful that I was able to learn that at a young age, but also be able to encourage others throughout that time that might have had a sibling pass away or a grandparent, and be like, listen, God is still in control. And I know it's one of those things, it's like, people can say all, oh, well, haven't gained another angel or this or that, like all this sweet little phrasing
Right.
that you can hear. But at the same time, I know what my foundation is, and that is in Christ.
Right.
And no matter what I do in life, my foundation will always be with Christ. And so few years after that, I went to school, and I ended up moving to Tennessee,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I love Tennessee. I think for me, this is where I truly grew as a person. I grew as an adult. Had my first big girl job and opportunities, and getting to make friends and travel and just have so many doors open that I never thought a small town girl from South Georgia would be given. And so, like I said, grief is a part of my story. And I remember one night I had a friend that was in town, and I get this phone call from my dad, and he said, "Your brother has been in an accident, and he's in heaven." And that was just like the moment. And I was just like, okay. So within minutes, I had staff members coming, and they were in my home helping me pack, getting me to Georgia, and just being able to be with my family and just that understanding. But like I said, grief is very difficult. It's one of those things that arguments happen and things like that. I never thought I would have to be planning my younger brother's
Of
funeral.
course.
I never thought that I would have to prepare things like that in general, because he was my best friend. He was my younger brother, my first best friend, honestly.
Right.
And so it is one of those things that even in those moments, I still got to see God move. I got to
Mhm.
see testimony of like people I had never even met before coming up to me, calling me, "I knew your brother. I knew the great things that he was doing and how he loved Jesus, and this is how he helped me." And just even thinking about it just brings tears to my eyes, because that's what we're called to be. We're called to be the love and the salt and light in this world. And I'm so thankful, even for the short time that I was able to have that with my mom, who was a prayer warrior, and and I got to see that firsthand. And I think, well, and I know those things affected me in my faith and how I live today.
Yeah.
And so that is why I love getting to write about grief, getting to share, being encouragement. For me, grief is grieving in grace and learning that grace, giving it to myself, but also giving it to others,
Mhm.
and knowing that it's only because of the grace of Jesus that I am here,
Yes.
and that life in life is truly worth living.
Well, let's talk about something. One of my friends who's a radio host out of Philly was talking about just what COVID did to our nation. It broke us. Those are his words, and I completely agree. It broke us mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. We saw deaths, and we still see deaths happening. Whether, I will tell everybody, no, I did not get vaccinated, and no, I do not force that down anybody's throat. Now, if you were mandated to get it by your work, like the federal government did, I have to challenge that mandate. But I don't want to go down that path with you. What I want to go down the path is the grief piece.
Mm,
We lost so many people during that time period, and so many more people are going through grief of loss now, but also mental health grief, if you will, of everything that's just been happening. It's a shock to our nation. It's a shock to our systems. It's a shock to the moms, the dads, the kids. The kids are like looking around like, what the heck? What's going on? Why am I not in school? And
right.
let me ask you from the grief standpoint and the things that you have written about grief. One, I want to find out where I can send my audience to check out some of your grief writings. And then also, I want to talk about what are you doing with those writings to really, what kind of conversations have you had with people? And one thing I want you to bring up is the work that you are doing and how God's called you to do that, but how you have impacted your clients on a completely different level. So I want to talk about that.
Definitely. So I'm going to try to hit on all those things.
Yeah.
But first off, you can find me on Grieving in Grace on social media, Instagram, Facebook. Just type in Grieving in Grace. And I actually have been working on a project that I am excited about that will be coming out soon. And I just have this desire to design a journal, because for
Okay.
me, um, with grieving, it was so much easier to write out my prayers and to write out my thoughts. And it was one of those things that in return, I have a stack of journals over here. And even from a time of being a young girl, of just like writing out my prayers to God and the questions that I had for Him going through those different seasons of grief, because grief is never ending. It's one of those things that it doesn't make sense. It's different for every person. And so I want to give just every individual an opportunity to accept the grief that's happening, the circumstance that's happening, and to process that.
Mhm.
Because when we don't process that, that's when we become bitter and angry, and we hold on to things, and that affects so much of who we are as a person and
Right.
our like bodily health. But at the same time, it affects how we interact with others, and like you were saying, the mental health capacity of it is huge. And I know, like with COVID and so many people that reached out, and I don't understand, because like for me, if my mother's passing was kind of concrete. She was diagnosed with cancer. My brother's passing was, he was in a freak ATV accident. Like I can say, well, he passed away of this. Of COVID, it's still that never ending question. But like, my friend had it, my neighbor had it, my sibling had it, but they didn't die of this. So why does it doesn't make sense? There's these
Right.
factors
Right.
that I don't know if we will ever understand, honestly. But it's one of those things, I got to see it firsthand from friends and my boyfriend with his passing of his grandfather. I mean, I was in the hospital the night that they allowed us in, moments before he passed, and I will tell you, it doesn't make sense. In the
Right.
moments, like you're seeing it, and it was just this mass of people and confusion. And that's what it
Yeah.
was, is absolutely
Yes.
confusion that
Yes.
has happened, and that has occurred. And I'm telling you, it is firsthand seeing hospitals and calling nurses and saying, well, you don't have a code and you don't have this, and being like, listen, they're there. Like, I need to have an update.
Right.
And so
Right.
there is a funny story about that, but that I'll share that at another time.
That's
But
fine.
it's just one of those things that for me, it grieving and grace has truly become a part of who I am, and sharing in my everyday conversations. And whether, like you mentioned, I do have clients. I love working in communications and marketing. And so I have clients all over the Southeast. And so it's one of those things, I get phone calls and like, hey, I can't do this today, or I can't jump on the Zoom because this is happening with my family member, or my aunt just passed away. And being able to be like, listen, you're a real person and you're okay. Like, we're going to get through this, and I'm going to pray over you right now.
Right. Right.
And being able to have those real faith conversations in
Mhm.
every aspect of my life. That is what ministry is. That's what we're called to be as Christians. And I believe, like, ministry doesn't have to happen just within four walls of a church. It happens in the
Exactly.
conversations you're having every single day. And
Yes.
so that is something that I am very passionate about. And whether it's the lifestyle blog that I'm helping, or a candidate that I'm helping with
Mhm.
photos, or whoever it may be,
Mhm.
I'm able to share my faith and live with the foundation that I have in
Mhm.
Jesus Christ.
I absolutely, I told everybody, I said, you are a breath of fresh air. You are an excellent communicator. You just bring your life to reality for so many people, your walk of faith. And I could tell just talking with you. Thanks, Gloria, who's watching, or Michelle, who's
Yes.
watching, for this amazing introduction to Kelly. Kelly also, I want to bring in this. She's also working with United Women of Tennessee. You met Gloria last week, and I know a lot of people tuned in, but also I looked at the back end numbers of Gloria on the YouTube channel, and it has a high number of people who watch that episode. So people are loving Gloria and what she's doing for the next generation, which is you. I would love to talk about your work with United Women of Federation of Tennessee. Talk about, you are also with the Young Republicans for
Mhm.
Tennessee. Talk about how that all came to be. I love how you went through it yesterday with me, but just kind of focusing on the fact that you're in Tennessee, you got connected, but how that came about, and just the shock that you went through when you attended one of your first meetings, and how you brought that to light. And then I want to then we'll go into the communications world, and we could talk for days on that, and I can't
For
wait.
sure.
But I want to talk about Gloria, next generation,
Definitely.
because my husband gets me going every morning. I don't know if you heard this opening rant. It was a little rant, but he was watching a drag queen be interviewed and on one of the main stations this morning. He said it was CBS, but I'm finding NBC's carrying a more recent story. And this drag queen, I believe, is on Broadway, and she pays all of her accolades and her gifts and talents to the devil. And she said that on national TV this morning. And my husband comes in, he's like, "Oh my gosh, you've got to hear what she just said. Can you believe this?" And I said, I can't believe it, but I don't want to believe it. And I talk and I think about our next generation. They're being indoctrinated with Wicca, with devil-like cults, and the whole drag queen education. And you are an example of the other side. And you guys are an example of how you are preparing the way with the young women with the Federation. You are preparing the way with YRs. So I want to hear from you on the shock that you went through and some of the events you attended, where you guys are now, but also keeping in mind that whole drag queen and education piece and what you could see for our next generation if that continues and you guys don't.
Definitely. So my whole Gloria story, and that's what I call it when people ask, is well, a couple of years ago, is no lie that my boyfriend is very active in politics and that he has worked with different campaigns. He worked with former Congressman Diane Black when she was in office and worked with all from intern up. And so it was one of those things that we were dating, and he said, "Hey, I have to go to this breakfast on Saturday." And I was just like, "Okay, that's fine." And he was like, "But we can go get coffee afterwards." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." And so I go and I started attending all the meetings. I get involved with the Republican women here in Sumner County. And then I got very involved just with different campaigns across our county and just statewide, and being able to help with door knocking and just all the different volunteer opportunities. And so I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with being able to know what was happening on a federal, state, and local level. And then really, I called Sumner County home, and I wanted to know what was happening in my hometown.
Right.
And so knowing the different representatives and creating those relationships and being able to, hey, call them up if I have questions. I'm so thankful for the leadership that we do have here. And so I was attending, we started our local Young Republican group back up, and we were going to our reorganization meeting down at the Capitol with all the different chapters there. And I remember sitting in a room, it was just state Senate chambers. And I remember looking around, and there were only 3 other women that were present. And yes, a lot of guys get involved in politics young and everything else. But it was one of those things I realized. I was like, there need to be more women in this room.
Right.
I can't, there has to be more women that are involved, young women that are passionate about this. And so a couple of months later, I just remember being in Nashville at a YR event there, and we were talking with some friends, and I remember going up to Stevie, and I was like, "Listen, who are the girls that I need to know? And introduce me to them, give me their numbers. I just want to be able to have people that I can call and like do things with that I, one, agree with, but at the same time, like we're still passionate about, and we're going to be able to help with this campaign." And that was something that was really big at the time. And I was just like, I want to get some girls involved.
Right.
And he said, well, if he looked at me straight in the eye and he says, well, if you want to know what's going on and have women that are impacting this not only county but country, you need to call my mom.
Right.
So I called Gloria, I think a couple of days later, and a year ago now, which is insane to think that it was a year ago, we had probably a close to 3-hour conversation on the phone. It was like she was my best friend. I've known her forever, and we just started rolling with everything and just life, whether it was articles or whether it was like, hey, let's get you involved with United Women. Let's get you involved with doing this. And here's of women across the country that you can connect with. And that has been my favorite part. United Women is so special because there are women all across the country that jump on these Zoom calls, listen to our different speakers. They're able to hear an interview, but also ask questions at the end. And I think that is so important because when you have, whether it's an elected official or a conservative leader that is making an impact and being able to say, how can I help? How can I, fundraise for you? Or how can I make a difference for you in my own county? And being able to know how that's truly affecting each person, that is what changes everything. And so now I'm friends with people that live all over in Chicago and in Minnesota and Louisiana, and knowing these women are rooting for me no matter what I do. I can call on them, text them, say, hey, this is what's happening. Hey, did you see this article? What does this mean for us? All these types of things. And I think that is so impactful. And being able to serve as a board member for them as well, I have seen just young girls from 15 to 80 something jump on a call, being able to have like-minded conversations, or sometimes it may not be like-minded. Maybe they may have, someone has a question and they want to fully understand, but we're able to have those conversations. And it's not like a throwing down someone's throat, but it's being able to have a real hard conversation, but understanding this is what I stand for in conservative beliefs and values and everything. And so, like I said, we do have young college girls that join, and sometimes, they have friends that may believe something different, or maybe they're hearing something in one of their classes or clubs, and so they're like, but it sounds good. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds good, and it sounds like it's going to be beneficial to you, but at the same time, let's talk this out real quick. And I think you have to have that respect when you're having the conversation, and you just can't just yell oh, you're a Democrat now, or oh, you're a rhino, just because they believe something different. But at the same time, being willing to have those conversations changes everything. And I know within this last year of being able with United, being a part of United Women, I've seen girls, we have an incredible scholarship opportunity with the Alicia Lundquist scholarship, and she was a patriot, and she was someone that loved and was very passionate for her conservative candidates here in Tennessee, and we named that scholarship after her. And it's a scholarship that girls can apply for, and what's incredible is it's not based off GPA, it's not based off a checklist of different civic hours or whatever. It's what are you doing for the conservative cause? And I love that. And right now we already have 2 applications in, and we'll be giving the scholarship out in the summer, so it'll go into effect for the next fall semester. But I am so excited because that's how we grow, and that's how you're able to have those those conversations on campuses. Because that has to happen. Those conversations on campus matter, and not being quiet, not being silent, not just saying, well, this is what they're going to teach anyways. No, being able to stand firm in what we believe in, and not only just in our Christian beliefs, but also in our conservative values as well.
Let me mention something really quickly. With us standing up and standing firm in our Christian beliefs in the public square, we are being attacked. We are being attacked, and traditional marriage is being attacked. It's not being recognized, and every other aspect of marriage, and you know what? I'm going to say this. I have friends who, think and believe of same sex. They live in that lifestyle, and it doesn't change my love for them. But when they are being recognized as marriages, but yet my marriage to my husband is not, that's when I got a problem. And for young university students who are joining this group, who are joining and who are having conversations with you, where is it that are they living in fear of having those real conversations because they may get a bad grade, the professor doesn't agree with them, from the standpoint of, whether it's marriage or whether it's a pro-life or whether it's
Right.
whatever. So they're going to get a bad grade for standing up for what they believe in. So are you talking with these young women and saying, okay, this is how you go about doing that, especially if they're going to an Ivy League school where they wanted to go for excellence. They wanted to go for recognition. They did not want to go to be censored.
I think a lot of times, and I mean, I know I'm young, but a lot of times, even the younger generation is all about the likes, the follows, and knowing like
Yes.
who their followers are. And they don't want to offend anybody because if they actually make a stand, they could lose, their followers.
Right.
And, whether they're having paid partnerships or whatever it may be, it's all about that number. And for me, it's so difficult to yes, like, I wanna know what is happening, and I love all my data that I can see and help with all my clients, but at the same time, like, I don't care, this is who I am, this is what I believe, and this is what you're gonna see in my content, and
Mhm.
so think it has to get to that point for each person realizing, like, this is who I am, and
Right.
whether you follow me or not, this is what I'm gonna say, this is what I'm gonna believe, and this is what I'm gonna fight for. And I think on campuses, and I've heard this from many, many times, even when I was in school, it was one of those things like, well, this is what the professor does. And if you know the answers that he's looking for or she's looking for. And so you just write it out. And even though I don't believe it, that's how I get an A and pass in this class.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay. And luckily, I didn't have any professors that were like that at that point. But at the same time, being able to hear that, even like with girls right now, and knowing, well, if I do this, I'll lose, like, I'll get kicked out of my fraternity or I'll get kicked out
Right.
of sorority or whatever it may be. And I was just like, okay, well, then you have a tough decision you need to make. You need to decide where you stand. And I think that's so and it's not like a judgmental place, it's just this is your opportunity to make a difference. It's your opportunity in your time to know, like, what is happening on your campus and how you can truly be a leader on your campus. Because there's other people. You're not the only one that feels
Right.
this way.
Yeah.
We're and then so many times they're just quiet or silent and they just kinda like, "Okay, well, I just have a year left. I have a year left of school, and then I can go on." And that's the part for me. Yes, you have a year left, so make the most of it. Make your voice heard. Don't care about the number, don't care about the following. You will gain followers because of this when you're standing up for what you believe
Right.
in.
Yeah.
And so that I see it time and time again, and that is just something that we encourage all of our ladies that when they do have an issue, like, hey, reach out to us. Hey, do you need
Mhm.
resources? Or hey, like, do you just need to talk it out right now? Maybe
Right.
you don't know how to respond, or maybe you're not sure what to do in a situation. But that's some of the situations that I've just sat on with Gloria and with
Mhm.
our other board members, and which is great because we have an advisory board, and so it's we're able to partner up,
Yeah.
whether it's pro-life issues or communications, or maybe it's, they really care about veteran issues or 2A or
Right.
whatever it may be. So
Right.
we're able to connect these young girls, these, the now generation, the next generation, however you want to say it, because with leaders that are active, that have been fighting, that are able to give their knowledge back to them as well
Yes.
and help
Yes.
them as they move forward. And
Yes.
so, like I said, I am so thankful to be a part of United Women Foundation and just being able to make an impact with them, but also get to meet so many conservative women that are fighting day in and day out for what is right.
Right. Well, I want to go right into communications since that's what we live, breathe, and eat. And that is our bread and butter. And that is what makes us tick and what makes us get up in the morning after we scare the devil as we hit the floor running with our feet. So, and our fancy shoes, whatever we day.
Yes.
But I have been in the world of communications, and this is going to date me, but I don't care. Since 1998, I've been thankful to having had phenomenal mentors on Capitol Hill
Mm.
in the world of communications. I always knew I loved politics, but having that world open to you on how to speak, how to be a great public speaker, how to coach other people on how to give a speech and talk to them and just present them in so many different ways, so many forms and fashions to the national media or to the local. And there's so many different avenues now and today. And I want to talk about your branding. I want to talk about digital marketing. I want to talk to you about what you see on the horizon for all of those who are in the communications field as it pertains to putting packages together for clients. I mean, you run your own business. We are both two small business owners, women entrepreneurs right here, conservative women of faith, rising to the occasion to run powerful businesses for amazing clients. So what do you see on the horizon for the communications and marketing as we live in a very lamestream legacy media?
I think many times with communications is what you make of it. And I
Mhm.
have a lot of clients that are comfortable doing, okay, well, let's do this or let's do that, but I'm not sure about that yet, or we can start that, in the next quarter. And that's fine. But having a real conversation, being like, not telling them what to do, but giving them options of saying, hey, you have a huge client list. We need to be doing email marketing. You need to be communicating to all of your, whether your partners, your clients, your, you know, uh, just your different donators, whoever it may
Sure.
be, they have to know what is going on with you, because the different demographics see social media or communications in a completely different way. Some's going to be Facebook, some's going to be email, some's going to be Twitter. And so being able to have the same option but on all platforms truly makes a difference. And I know, like, not everybody loves TikTok, and I know some people do this and that, and I'm personally not a fan of TikTok just
Right.
because of all the
Here.
controversy, but
Yeah.
I have clients that love it, and so I'll run it for them and everything. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I truly believe, like, women of faith in this field is very few and far between,
Yes.
because it's one of those
Yes.
things that I am able to just be able to pray with someone or be able to be encouraging or send them like that daily reminder, like, hey, it's okay, God has this, and God has already gone before you, and literally praying scripture over them,
Mhm.
just our conversations. And so, but for me, it was difficult figuring out what the package is, what it looks like. If they just want, okay, I just want to modernize my Facebook and Instagram, or I want
Right.
to get it synced up, or I want to understand what is Meta, why isn't my video showing,
Yeah.
or what is,
Yeah.
why does my Instagram account keep getting blocked or shut down?
Yes.
That has happened. I have seen that time and time again, and it is so frustrating. And just being able to have a real conversation with a client and be like, okay, we're starting back from zero, but
Right.
it's okay. We have a strategy, we have a plan, and this
Yes.
is how we're going to implement it.
Yes.
And so I think for me, I had to learn confidence in communicating that to all of my clients, being
Mhm.
able to be present, whether it may be a less hour of sleep for me, or I may be, having to show up to something that I wasn't planning to, but that brings them confidence in their business and in their, nonprofit or whatever campaign, whatever it may be. And
Mhm.
just being able to just talk it out. So many people just shut down when it comes to social media. Well, no one will want to see that about me, and no one want to read about my recipes, or no one will want to know about this is what I stand for. And I'm like,
Mhm.
yes, they do.
Yeah.
Because it is a proven fact that people are going to be creators of content, or they're going to just be scrolling content.
Yes, yes, you are correct. You are correct. Can you give us a quick insight into how long does a person have if they are going to be a creator of content? So for one of your clients, how long does is your audience? Is it 10 seconds? Is it less than that as they are scrolling?
So, couple of tidbits just in case. This is just things that I've learned. Anything with blue in the image, in the caption, some kind of in the graphic, people are attracted to blue. It's something with our eyes. It's a scientific study that when you're scrolling through your phone and you see something, your eyes stop. You have to have that tagline. You have to be able, maybe it's, reels are huge right now.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
might be a trending audio that catches everybody's attention, or it could be just a really interactive photo. It's making things personal. People want to see real life. They want to
Yes.
see behind the scenes. They want to see, what does this actually mean? Because they could be interested in it, but at the same time, you have about less than 30 seconds, because a reel right now, they're saying to keep it between 20 to 40 seconds, because
Okay.
if not, you're just going to keep scrolling.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's so easy to get caught in that scroll, that never ending scroll, because you're like, oh, this is hilarious. Or you're sending, the meme over to friends or whatever.
Right.
And I get caught up in doing that and being like, no, I'm not going to be consumer of content. I'm going to be creator of content.
Yes.
Because no matter what, people are going to scroll and they're looking for answers.
Mm.
And just like, biblical truth, people are always looking for answers. And so that is why I try to incorporate, my favorite verses, or maybe something that God's teaching me in
Yes.
all of my platforms. So
Yes.
no matter what, no matter how you're following me, you're going to see about my faith, about my freedom, and about, my relationship with Christ.
Yes. No, that's very obvious. When Gloria first told me about you, I decided to start, trolling all of your social pages, and all I saw was faith. And I absolutely was so immediately drawn into that, because you don't find that very often. And, being in the communication space that we are in, and I always am wanting to provide my client not with just the day in, day out work of the strategic communication space, but also that relationship, that friendship, in the sense of how is it going to be lifting them up? How is it going to be canvassing what really means to them, but with a faith component, whether they are faith or
Definitely.
not. But we bring that faith component to everything that we do with integrity. And that just speaks volumes, I think, to across the board, to those who see us for a clip on social media, or
Right.
those who, hop over to our website. Let me ask you this. What do you see? Do you see any hot button social media pieces about to kind of come to the forefront, come to the playing field as we head into 2024? Do you see anything outweighing? I mean, we see the whole Twitter, it's
Right.
from A to Z. We see Meta, we see TikTok being taken out of a lot of government pieces because of the CCP. So what are your thoughts on the social media platforms? What do you see happening to our field in the digital space as we head into 2024?
Well, first off, I think honestly, ads are going to be absolutely insane, because
Mhm.
most individuals that if they're not in communications, they may not even realize that it's a sponsored ad. So they're
Right.
going to be seeing it left and right, or pop up or whatever. But also, you have the factor of text messaging. That is a way of communication now, whether it's a video, whether it's just an image, or just a message. And the fundraising that goes with text messaging is absolutely insane if you look at that data, and knowing that how much I used to know the average that was raised during the last campaign cycle. But it's one of those things that I believe that you're going to get it on all fronts, whether you signed up for a random emails down the line, and
Right.
it's going to be coming through email, text, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever it may be, we're going to see it regardless. I also think it's interesting how much people do pay for ads. And yes, like, you have to have top of the line quality videos and images and graphics, and you want to catch that attention. When it comes to mail pieces, you
Yeah.
have about 27 seconds from the mailbox for them to see the
Yes.
tagline, the cute
Yes.
photo, and then
Yes.
it's probably going to go in the
In
trash
the
once
trash.
you know them.
Do
And
you think mailing is even worth it these days? Because when I ran, we didn't do any mailers, and the mailers that were coming out from the other candidates weren't even relevant to the campaign, and the topics, like, off the chart, like. And so I looked and I thought, okay, I'm not going to be budgeting towards that, knowing what you just
right.
said. So
Yes.
Do you think it's still relevant to even do mailers?
In some ways, yes,
Okay.
because you do have the small town feel. You have the person that wants to know, like, oh, well, he served on this, organization, and now he's doing this, and now, oh, I know him, and you're able to tangibly say, like, I know him, kind of
Okay.
deal, and I'm going to call him up and ask a question because of whatever it may be.
Okay.
I also think that it is going to be more digital moving forward, regardless. But I think no matter what, we'll still have for years to come, we'll still have that tangible mail piece just
Mhm.
because the demographic of voters is not on social media.
Mhm.
And those are the ones that mainly show up, or, if there's an issue, whatever, they might, get an absentee ballot, or
Mhm.
they might vote early, or however it may be. But the older generation always votes. And so I'm excited
Yeah.
to see how that actually turns out. I think for the younger generations, they're really banking on social media and
Yes,
digital
they are.
marketing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's interesting to look at the breakdown of ages, of gender,
Mhm.
of, just different areas of the country, and knowing who is actually showing up to vote.
Mhm.
Because people will post all day long on their social media, oh, remember to vote. But when you go down to like actually seeing who actually voted in that
Yeah.
list, it's like, it's shocking to say, like, well, only, 1,400 people voted in this election, this local election.
Mhm.
Why? When there's, thousands upon thousands of people that they just don't show up.
What are what's your theory on that? I mean, I have a theory, but what's yours? Why don't they are they that lazy? Is it that is that it?
I will give benefit of the doubt. Sometimes there
Okay.
are situations that happen, just life. But at the same time, like here in Tennessee, we have 2 weeks of early voting. You can do absentee ballot, you can mail it in, however it may be.
Right.
At the same time, and I think some people honestly don't understand the process. They legitimately do not. I don't know if they don't care. Sometimes they may not. But I think when it comes down to it, they see polarizing topics, they see polarizing views, they see the negative campaigning that's happening, and they're like, you know what, I'm just gonna just go on with my life because I have kids and that have to go to soccer practice, and
Right.
I have to be at church in 2 hours, and here we are.
Right.
And I hate to say it like that, but at some point we have to realize as a country, like, our vote matters. It truly does. And
Mhm.
that is something that I'm truly passionate about. And so when it comes time to, voting and early voting, I have my little
Yeah.
script,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hey, remember, this is where early voting today, or, and that was something with the Young Republicans at our local level. I made sure every day of early voting, no matter what, everybody that followed, we shared it, our different members did. This is where early voting is happening today.
Yeah.
So these are the times, this is location, and so people knew exactly what was going on. And I think it's going to take more of that awareness and sharing. But
Mhm.
at the same time, there has to be ownership with that as well, and realizing, like, this is what I want for my country. Too many people get complacent, and I'm just sad of that.
Yeah, they're complacent. Their heads are stuck in the sand or, other places. And I mean, a lot of people will admit to it, to be honest with you. And, I always say here at Common Sense America, get off your tuchuses, get out of your complacent behind your computer zone and get out there and actually make a difference. Because if you're just sitting here and me just sitting here for an hour a day, I'm going to make a little bit of a snap, a
Right.
difference, but it's us being on the front lines. It's us being at the very forefront of what is happening in and around our local communities and our backyard and at our kitchen tables. I mean, that's what
Yes.
kitchen table discussions, they can get heated, but they also change and affect what is happening in the family, but also in our nation. And so I'm grateful for what you're doing with the Young Republicans, with the Women's Federation of Tennessee. Where can people find you, Miss Kelly McKinley?
So they can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter under Kelly L _ McKinley, or you can find me on my branding page, Kelly L McKinley Branding and Co. I try to give tips, try to give monthly ideas for what you can do for your social media,
I love
things
it.
that are events that are coming up, and just general or just opportunities that you could have for different trainings as well. If you just are interested in learning, and here's a free training that's being given online. But thank you again, Eden, so
Oh,
much for this opportunity.
my pleasure. Also, where can they find you on the grief work that you're doing, the blogs?
Yes. So it's under Grieving and Grace.
Grief.
And so, yes. And so I will be happy to share all that information with you as well.
Okay. Yeah. I have posted and tagged you in all the social platforms for today. So go in there if you have a chance and post Grieving and Grace, and also your website where people can find you, so we can drive some people over to, both privately and professionally. I think a lot of people really need to know how to grieve through, God's grace. And I think we need to be reminded of that. So for such a time as this, Kelly, let's go out and save the world. So I'm so grateful. You are a breath of fresh air. You are a power hitter in communications. For all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. Thank you for joining us with Kelly McKinley, communications, branding, digital marketing guru. That's what I'm going to call her from here on out. Kelly, we look forward to having you back again soon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Eden.
All right, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And for all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill. And, if you haven't yet subscribed, go hop right over to YouTube and check out my YouTube channel, Common Sense America with Eden Hill. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. But no, I am not on TikTok or Snapchat for many reasons, as you guys already know. As we head into next week, we're going to be hitting some new features yet again, both locally here to Eastern North Carolina and also at a national level. So next week, I'm going to be bringing over 2 high school students who were with Turning Point USA out of New Bern, North Carolina. And they uncovered our religious liberties being removed one book at a time in one of the schools over in New Bern. You're going to hear about that next week. Monday and Thursday, I will be right back here to talk with you about that. I love Turning Point USA. I work on a lot of projects with them for my authors that I represent through my media business, but I also love working with them because they are the next generation who are going to be leading this nation. And I also sit here and say, who is our leader? Is it China? Is it Russia? Who's running our country right now? It's definitely not Biden, as they ransack his home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, or his son Hunter has finally admitted to that was his laptop. Really? Go figure. I'm not sure who's running this country, as we know that there are Russian boats in our waters. No one's talking about it. You guys nervous? We're walking by faith, not by sight. But I am wondering who is running our nation right now. Certainly not Grandpa. Maybe Obama in his pajamas in Martha's Vineyard. But aren't you guys concerned? So your vote does matter. Just like you heard from Kelly, our vote matters, whether you want to believe it or not. Yeah, there's a lot of election integrity issues. I saw it here firsthand in the state of North Carolina. I saw it firsthand with my election. Everything is stolen these days. But we have got to get involved. We got to be a part of the election integrity process. We got to fight back. And again, I ask you the question, who's running this nation? I am looking for a leader. Is it Trump? Is it going to be DeSantis? Is it going to be Nikki Haley? Is it going to be Mike Pompeo? Is it going to be Mike Pence? But I am looking for a leader. So as we head into next week, I also have some really cool surprises for you. New featured guests. Like I said, we have Turning Point USA high school students, but Project 2025, Look it up. From Heritage Foundation, they're going to be joining us too. They're going to be inspiring us, convicting us, preparing us, and also pointing us to what is ahead. So until then, thank you all to who are serving in our United States military, whether you are here on the home front at Fort Bragg, Camp Lejeune, Cherry Point, Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, or whether you are overseas. Thank you for your service to all of our veterans. And oh, by the way, and thank you to the Lancaster County Marine Corps League. You guys were great. I loved attending your gun show last weekend in Lancaster County over by Solanco. You guys are awesome. Keep up the great work. And thank you to all who have served in our nation's backyard. Thank you to all the retirees who are literally here in my neighborhood. I love you dearly. Thank you for your service. Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. Never forget the Coast Guard. Until then, I'll see you guys next week. God bless you all. Be safe, be strong, be courageous, and go get them.